It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Thursday, November 20th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Morning clouds will give way to sunshine this afternoon, high 47. Tonight and overnight, partly cloudy, low 41. And then Friday, cloudy, high 52. If you're coming off of Bender right now, it's 36 and cloudy in Cedarhurst out on Long Island, 33 and cloudy in Cranberry over in New Jersey, and it's 34 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
The green light's been given to release the Epstein files, so when will we see them? Mayor-elect Mamdani, President Trump have a date for a sit-down. A Brooklyn wig maker sheds tears in court. A postal worker goes postal on a man asking for his mail. Were you invited to some crazy pool parties up in the Hudson Valley? Neither was I. 501, President Trump announcing last night that he'll meet with Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani at the White House tomorrow. So he puts out the statement on Truth Social, and I'm sure Mamdani will feel very welcome when he reads this. Communist Mayor of New York City, Zohran Kwame Mamdani, has asked for a meeting. We have agreed that this meeting will take place at the Oval Office on Friday. That's what Trump said in a Truth Social post last night. Mamdani's transition team, they later confirmed the mayor-elect will meet with the president in D.C. They said, as is customary for an incoming mayoral administration, the mayor-elect plans to meet with the president in Washington to discuss public safety, economic security, and affordability. The president for months has been slamming Mamdani, labeling him as a communist, predicting the ruin of his hometown if the Democratic Socialist was elected. He also threatened to deport Mamdani at one point, who was born in Uganda and became a naturalized citizen. The Mamdani campaign and Mr. Mamdani talking about this meeting yesterday.
I want to just speak plainly to the president about what it means to actually stand up for New Yorkers and the way in which New Yorkers are struggling to afford this city. And frankly, cost of living is something that I heard time and time again from New Yorkers about why they voted for Donald Trump.
Now, give the president a lot of credit because he's actually meeting with the mayor-elect before the current mayor does. Where is Mayor Adams? Uzbekistan. He's in Israel. It's amazing. This has already been a couple weeks. Normally, what is tradition is the current mayor meets with the mayor-elect, but that meeting has not happened yet.
I'm going to make very clear the things that we need to actually fulfill this transition, because no matter...
So this is Mamdani talking about the fact that he has not met with Mayor Adams, but what he would like to discuss with him, he does.
Political differences, which clearly are many, there is also the need to ensure that New Yorkers know that on January 1st there will be a smooth transition over, because people do not live their lives in accordance with the political calendar. The things they need on December 31st are what they need on January 1st, whether we're talking about the streets being cleaned or, people being able to wake up and know that their city is the same as it was. That requires a smooth transition. That's what we're going to focus on.
Mayor Adams has really just been poking Mamdani during this overseas trip. You will have a familiar face. You probably heard about this. When Mamdani takes over January 1, NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch announced yesterday that she has accepted Mamdani's offer to remain in her position as the commissioner. She will be on with Sid and Friends in the Morning tomorrow morning. There was an important vote last night. It approves this contract extension for school bus companies here in the city. They'll continue to drive students to class. This is a big deal. Andrew Whitman has more.
The panel for educational policy's vote to approve the 3-year contract comes after last month's emergency extension with the school bus companies because of their threat to halt service to 150,000 students. Parents and students have been demanding better service and have filed a large number of complaints to the Department of Education. They had hoped to see them addressed before the companies were given a new deal. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
WABC News Time 504. The Jets talking about this Chris Boyd, the cornerback, who was shot outside a nightclub. This was early Sunday morning, around 2 in the morning. They gave an update on his condition last night. They tell us that we have more information from them than we do from the cops. He was shot in the abdomen early Sunday morning in Manhattan outside a nightclub on West 38th Street. He has undergone multiple procedures to have this bullet removed from his right lung. A spokesman for the NYPD says the search for the gunman, that continues. And the more details that we've been given is there was some sort of scuffle inside this nightclub early Sunday morning that involved a crew of people and some Jet players. And that scuffle ended up out on the street, and that's when the bullets were fired. Jets again, NYPD confirming this yesterday. None of the Jet players were armed, but unfortunately that other individual was. So far, they have not found him. President Trump signing legislation yesterday that compels his administration to release files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. He is bowing to political pressure from his own party after initially resisting those efforts. House Speaker Mike Johnson, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries are probably just happy to have this thing over with for now anyway.
It's a big victory for the survivors, a big victory for transparency, and a big victory for the American people.
We wanted to do it in a responsible manner, and I'm really hopeful that the victims and survivors get to take some comfort in that.
So now the bill requires the Justice Department to release all files and communications related to Epstein, as well as any information about the investigation into his death in a federal prison in Lower Manhattan in 2019. They have to do this within 30 days. Here's Attorney General Pam Bondi.
We will continue to follow the law with maximum transparency while protecting victims.
Now, yesterday, the Attorney General was asked if a new DOJ investigation in New York related to the files would slow down the release of these files that were supposed to be released within 30 days. Now, she didn't have a lot to say about
information that has come for information. There's information, that new information, additional information, and again, we will continue to follow the law.
Yeah, so she didn't give us any information about that. Meanwhile, some of the Epstein victims were speaking out yesterday, hearing that these files will finally be released.
This feels like a victory, a long overdue victory in a fight that many people have fought, and it feels great. But it's bittersweet, because of I think what it took for us to get to this moment.
And the fallout may be just beginning, because when we see these files, there'll be names in them. Maybe we'll be surprised by some of them. Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, he's stepping back from his teaching role at Harvard, where he once served as the president of the university, over emails showing his close ties to the convicted sex offender.
The released emails showed that Larry Summers stayed in close communication with Jeffrey Epstein, even after the late financier's conviction for sex offences. The emails revealed that Summers made sexist comments and asked Epstein for romantic advice. Earlier this week, Summers said he would be stepping back from public commitments. The Centre for American Progress, where Summers was a senior fellow, has now also severed ties with the former Treasury Secretary. Summers has said he is deeply ashamed of his actions and takes full responsibility for his misguided decision to continue communicating with Epstein. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
WABC News Time 509. Let's go down to Florida. The FBI investigating the death of an 18-year-old Florida cheerleader aboard a Carnival cruise ship that may involve her stepbrother. Legal analyst Mark Arglash says if Anna Kepner's death is deemed a homicide, the greatest challenge for investigators will be to prove the venue.
Courts cannot even begin to prosecute a defendant unless it can be established that the crime occurred within the jurisdiction in which the courts are being held. So if it didn't happen in Miami, they can't bring it in Miami court.
Yeah, interesting. Kepner's body was found on the ship at Port Miami. According to the FBI, Kepner's 16-year-old stepbrother, the suspect in the death investigation. Arglash says if he is charged with murder, he may be tried in federal court.
If this is deemed to be homicide, and if it can be proven that this was actually murder, then I expect this 16-year-old to be charged, and certainly as an adult. Because this happened at sea, it's it's likely this may be handled in the federal arena. If it didn't happen in Miami, it's going to be difficult to bring the charge in Miami.
Not enough of it's a tragedy already that this 18-year-old was killed, but to think that her stepbrother was behind it is even more awful. She was set to join the Navy once she graduated high school. 5:11, President Trump heaping praise on the Saudi crown prince while speaking at the U.S.-Saudi Arabia Investment Forum in D.C. yesterday. The president touting the growing business ties between our nations.
This week, our countries also signed groundbreaking agreements on civil nuclear energy, critical minerals, and artificial intelligence.
The president joined by the Saudi crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman. The forum attendees included some really big names. Elon Musk, the CEOs from Chevron, Qualcomm, Cisco, General Dynamics, Pfizer. The list goes on and on.
Partnership between our two nations is among the most consequential in the entire world, and together the crown prince and I are making an alliance stronger and more powerful than it's ever been before. Yesterday, the crown prince announced that the number that they'll be investing in the United States is $1 trillion.
That's a lot of money. 5:12. An American delegation's in Ukraine today after 20 people were killed in an overnight Russian missile and drone attack on Wednesday. Correspondent Matt Bodner reports that in western Ukraine, 2 blocks of apartment buildings were hit.
Video of the aftermath showed these apartments were critically damaged, collapsing in parts. This wounded scores of people, some of them children. Last night's strikes also hit Lviv, one of the major cities in western Ukraine. And on the other side of the country, Kharkiv was also targeted.
Russia's defense ministry says it carried out that massive strike with long-range, high-precision air and sea-launched weapons in response to Ukraine's terrorist attacks on civilian facilities there.
This all comes as an American delegation actually arrived in Kyiv today, led by senior U.S. Army officials. They say that they're on a fact-finding mission to talk to Ukrainian officials about the war and about how to end the war. Notably, this is the first time Ukraine said that it had used this type of munition for these types of strikes. Ukraine has been using them on Russian targets on Ukrainian territory, but has been prohibited by the United States from sending them further in. These strikes also targeted energy and transport infrastructure, forcing emergency power cuts in a number of regions. This all followed the Ukrainian military saying that it had used long-range American-made missiles against military targets within Russia.
We don't know a lot about these meetings, but Army Secretary Dan Driscoll leading the delegation to Ukraine. He's joined by the Army Chief of Staff General Randy George, as well as some other top officials. 5:13, while we're overseas, investigators in Italy looking into a report that claims Italian tourists paid to be able to shoot at civilians in war-torn Sarajevo in the early 1990s.
A Milan-based writer says very wealthy people with a passion for weapons paid to be able to kill defenseless civilians in the city during the Bosnian War. The writer says different rates were charged to kill men, women, or children. The wealthy tourists went on so-called sniper safaris in Sarajevo. I'm Mark Mayfield.
5:14. Let's go bring it back home, go down to Washington, D.C., where Republicans floating the idea now of direct cash payments as an alternative to the expensive health care credits that expire at the end of this year.
Consumer choice might be a pretty good alternative.
Senator John Cornyn of Texas there, the Republican, says Obamacare, inefficient, filled with cost overruns that are paid for by taxpayers. Some people were signed up by who he called headhunters and may not even know that they're covered. He claims that these direct cash payments are a pretty good alternative to what's happening now.
And one that would be more economically sustainable. The needs of individuals are not accommodated by a one-size-fits-all policy.
Yeah, and he, like some other Republicans, continue to say Obamacare is inefficient and filled with cost overruns that are being paid for by the taxpayers. In a moment, we'll tell you why Republicans are going after the census. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Good morning to you, Noam Layden. Start out here in Dallas. Jalen Brunson had a game-high 28 points in his returned from a 2-game absence. Landry Shamet drained a pair of 3-pointers in the final minute and drew a crucial charging foul in the final second, and the Knicks beat the Mavericks 113-111. Karl Anthony Towns had 18 points and 14 rebounds, while Josh Hart had 16 points and 10 rebounds off the bench for the Knicks, who won for the first time on the road this season. Brunson, who had a grade 1 ankle sprain, hit a free throw with 3.8 seconds left for a 2-point lead, and then Dallas's P.J. Washington inbounded to Brandon Williams in midcourt. Williams drove to the basket and scored with 0.7 seconds left, but was called for charging into Shamet. Brunson's free throw ended a string of 5 straight Knicks misses from the line. In the final 22 seconds, they shot 19 for 35. That's 54.3% on free throws overall. They were 12.
Wait, they missed 5 free throws in a row? Did I hear you right?
5 straight Knicks misses from the line in the final 22 seconds. They were doing everything they can to lose this game. Yeah.
How can you not make a free throw? I just don't get it. It's like the easiest shot.
Yeah, you want to go out there in front of 50,000 fans and try and make a couple? You do.
First of all, it's like 20,000.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about a football stadium.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I remember playing basketball as a kid that you spent like hours. They would have you practice free throws so you wouldn't miss them when you actually got to the line.
Yeah, but when you're playing in the NBA, I get it.
These guys are paying a gazillion dollars.
I know. I understand what you're saying.
Make a freaking free throw.
And I've actually got one foot in your camp, but I've got the other foot in the camp of nerves.
5 in a row? I mean, that's
these
insane.
guys have nerves, you know. I mean, listen, none of them are Shaquille O'Neal. That was, you to watch him take free throws, that was like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
But, you can't miss 5 down the stretch like that. You usually lose games like that, especially tight ones like this. But they survived last night. Up next for them, they'll be at Orlando come Saturday. Tonight, then we got to look ahead. Got to look ahead to the triple header on the ice tonight, I should say. 7 p.m. puck drop for the Islanders in Detroit against the Red Wings. Also at 7, the Devils are out in Florida against the Panthers, and at 9 p.m. tonight, the Rangers will take on the Avalanche out in Colorado. And it is Thursday, which means Week 12 in the NFL getting underway tonight. 8:15 p.m. kickoff. As always, the 7-3 Bills. They're 6-point favorites at the 5-5 Houston Texans. That is your sports. Noam, and I'm Justin Ulrich on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 519. Democrats taking aim at private donations for construction at the White House now.
A bill called the Stop Ballroom Bribery Act has been introduced by Senator Elizabeth Warren and Congressman Robert Garcia in response to President Trump's request for private donations to fund the building of a new White House ballroom. The bill would create restrictions preventing the president from soliciting donations and keep donors' names from being displayed. It puts a 2-year cooling-off period in place that would prohibit donors from lobbying the government during that time. The White House has yet to comment. I'm Scott Carr in Washington.
Republicans looking to make changes to the census. The plan led by Texas Congressman Chip Roy, who's furious that illegal immigrants are counted the same as citizens.
The Census Bureau's own after-action report found that it significantly undercounted the population of 6 states, 5 of which, including my home state of Texas, are predominantly Republican.
He called the 2020 census the sanctuary census. That's because states where illegal immigrants are shielded from deportation had larger populations and therefore more seats in Congress.
If congressional seats were properly apportioned based on the number of citizens, Republican states would gain between 10 and 12 seats in the House of Representatives. Conversely, the Census Bureau found that it overcounted in 8 states, 7 of which are predominantly Democratic.
The Congressman Chip Roy says his state of Texas probably lose out on seats because of that 2020 census. Down in Florida, the Coast Guard had a historic haul this week at Port Everglades, nearly 50,000 pounds of cocaine worth more than $360 million. It is being called the Coast Guard's largest cocaine seizure by a single cutter ever.
Removing this much cocaine from the global supply chain does more than interrupt a shipment. It weakens entire organizations.
That's DEA Administrator Terry Cole says it also protects communities throughout the country. The Cutter Stone's 15 interactions were all made in the eastern Pacific Oceans, right near Colombia and Ecuador.
This kind of investment is what has set the Coast Guard, has unleashed the Coast Guard to be able to deliver the kind of historic results, again, that these men and women signed up to do.
course, you wonder, like, how many of these boats actually get through. The fact that one boat had $360 million worth of cocaine on board. Coast Guard Vice Admiral Nathan Moore says the haul represents just a victory in the ongoing fight against drugs.
Our message to the cartels is clear. We own the sea, not you. We will find you, we will hunt you down, and stop you if you wish to do this nation harm before you reach our shores.
Now, in this case, the smugglers were detained by the U.S., and they were then turned over to their home countries to face charges. 522, a 25-year-old survivor of the Parkland, Florida school shooting is running for Congress.
Cameron Caskey was a 17-year-old student at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School when a mass shooter killed 17 people at the school in 2018. Now, he's running for a seat in New York's 12th Congressional District as a Democrat.
My name is Cameron Caskey, and I'm running for Congress because there's no real path forward for most Americans. You and your family are working all week just to spend most of your paycheck on rent and health care. Meanwhile, the richest people in our country are telling us that we can't afford real solutions like social housing and Medicare for all.
Caskey is hoping to replace veteran lawmaker Jerry Nadler. The race already includes JFK's grandson, Jack Schlossberg. I'm Lisa Ritchie, 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 523. The U.S. is offering a $15 million reward for a Canadian Olympian turned fugitive. Attorney General Pam Bonding announcing new charges yesterday against former Olympic snowboarder Ryan Wedding, who the DOJ calls a drug lord who's on the run.
From day one, Ryan Wedding has been on the top of Director Patel's radar to get him. We have talked about him constantly. To put that in perspective, 60 metric tons is approximately the weight of 40 standard cars.
Bondi talking about the fact that they say Wedding was behind an operation that trafficked 60 metric tons of cocaine.
Today we're unsealing a new indictment, charging Wedding with 2 additional counts of witness tampering and intimidation, murder, money laundering, and drug trafficking.
Yeah, Wedding faces murder, drug trafficking, and other charges. They just got to find him. There's all this talk, of course, about the AI bubble. Have you been tuning into this, that it's going to burst like it did back in the 80s? Well, talk of the AI bubble seemed to vanish yesterday when NVIDIA reported $57 billion in revenue for the third quarter. That's a 62% increase compared to the same quarter last year. And AI products are the driving force. The company said geopolitical issues with China are the only major challenges that company currently faces. 525, a new poll shows a significant majority of American voters are leaning towards electing Democratic candidates in next year's midterms.
The latest Marist poll shows when respondents were asked which party's candidate they're most likely to vote for in their congressional district, Democrats had a 14-point advantage over Republicans. Findings show both parties received nearly all of their own affiliated voters' support, but some independent voters who supported President Trump in 2024 appear to be breaking from GOP congressional candidates. I'm Jim Roop.
And while we're talking about party politics appear to have an influence on health decisions parents make for their children.
The Pew Research Center surveyed about 5,000 U.S. adults and found over 70% of Republicans believe parents should decide which vaccines should be given to children, compared to only 46% of Democrats, who believe medical experts should play a larger role in childhood vaccine policy decisions. The data shows a majority from both sides agree that childhood vaccines are effective at preventing serious illness, though there is less support from Republicans for school vaccine requirements. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Remember when there was a time when Target was a really popular store? Not as of late. People have been complaining about the stores being sloppy, hard to find things on the shelves. The prices have gone up, and now Target is cutting back its profit estimates for the year, warning of a slower holiday season as customers look to stretch their dollars.
The retailer has been slashing prices on thousands of food, beverage, and essential items as the end of the year approaches. The company is also planning to invest in upgrading its stores. Meanwhile, home improvement chain Lowe's is also reducing profit expectations despite a sales increase for the quarter. In a release out today, the company said ongoing economic uncertainty played a role in the revised outlook. I'm Matt Mattinson.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Thursday, November 20th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Morning clouds will give way to sunshine this afternoon. High 47. Tonight and overnight, partly cloudy, low 41. And then Friday, clouds, high 52. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. It's 36 and cloudy in Cedarhurst out on Long Island. It's 33 and cloudy in Cranberry over in New Jersey. And it's 34 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:39. Mayor-elect Mamdani has yet to meet with Mayor Adams, who's gallivanting around the world in Israel and Uzbekistan, but he will meet with the president before he meets with Mayor Adams. That's going to happen on Friday.
Trump posted on social media that Mamdani asked for a meeting, which will happen in the Oval Office. Mamdani confirmed the meet, calling it customary for incoming mayors. Trump spent much of the campaign attacking the 34-year-old Democratic Socialist Assemblyman, threatening to withhold federal funds if Mamdani won. Mamdani has said a relationship with the White House is critical to the city's success. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
In a story we broke here yesterday, Mayor-elect Mamdani will have one familiar face in his administration when he takes office in January. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch announcing yesterday that she accepted Mamdani's offer to remain in her position. The mayor-elect cited the city's drop in shootings, murders, transit crime as the reason he wanted the 44-year-old to stay on. Tisch sent a department-wide email yesterday morning to officers, said that the NYPD, leading the NYPD, has been her greatest privilege in her life, and she wants to continue on. She went on to say that the two, meaning her and Mayor-elect Mamdani, do not agree on everything, but they do share some of the same goals. The two, Mayor-elect Mamdani and Police Commissioner Tisch, appeared for the first time together yesterday, and they did so at the Police Memorial Wall in Battery Park.
This memorial so represents the heart of the NYPD, how we honor the sacrifices of those who have lost their lives in the line of duty. And so to me, it is very meaningful that he asked to come here as our first public venture to visit the memorial with me and with some of our officers here.
Mamdani saying after that meeting and the meet and greet, Mamdani's happy that the commissioner's staying on.
The commissioner and I share a belief in the fact that in order for police officers to be able to do their jobs, we also need to create a Department of Community Safety.
Everybody weighing in on this, and former Commissioner Bill Bratton, who worked with Tisch, says he's thrilled that she made the decision to stay on.
It'll be interesting as to what that common ground is, common cause. And certainly the members of the police department, the unions will be very happy. I think the majority of the public.
Bratton says that Mayor-elect Mamdani was smart not to switch course since Tisch has assembled a pretty good team at the NYPD.
I would have to assume that there were negotiations and that there was some coming together in the sense of her concerns, his priorities. I have counseled that I would hope that the mayor-elect has got a lot of things on his plate.
The police commissioner herself, she'll be on with Sid and Friends in the morning tomorrow morning. About 24 federal agents descending on a wholesale seafood distribution site in Newark yesterday. They took 15 people into custody. This was an ICE raid. The raid began as heavily masked federal agents, along with members of the FBI, made their presence known around the Ocean Seafood Depot. Now, this is not the first time they've been there. In fact, the second or third. This is a food distributor on Adams Street, and as they arrived, so did some protesters who were warning other people who work at the seafood company to stay away, especially if they're not here illegally.
Stay clear of the area! Tell them to tell everyone else that ICE is here!
Now, the last ICE raid came back in January. That led to a bunch of workers being escorted out of the building. One of the workers that was taken away yesterday, one of the 15, he was later released. He was here legally. Another man who showed up at the seafood depot yesterday was looking for his mother. She had not returned. He had not heard from her. That is, these protesters stayed on the scene.
This is just another message. This is just a stunt.
This is them trying to terrorize the community.
In all, 14 people were taken into custody, if you don't include that person who was released. 5:43, out to Brooklyn, where a wig maker is going to go to prison in a deadly crash that killed a Midwood mother and her 2 young daughters. Miriam Yerimi, crying in court yesterday after she was sentenced to 3 to 9 years in prison for mowing down 34-year-old Natasha Sada and her 5 and 8-year-old daughters. This was a high-speed crash on Ocean Parkway last March. Sada's 4-year-old son was the only person who survived. He has serious injuries. Here was Miriam Yerimi crying to the judge, apologizing for what she did in court yesterday.
I think about the victims every day. It's not a day that goes by where I don't think about what I did, what happened. There's a lot of sorrow and pain, remorse, regret I feel in my heart. Except for responsibility for my actions.
Now, she was given a plea deal over the objection of Brooklyn prosecutors who had sought 5 to 15 years for the 33-year-old, noting that Yerimi blew through several red lights, was talking on her cell phone, going 68 miles an hour when she hit this family. Here's a lawyer for the Sada family who said they were not happy at all with the fact that she got so little behind bars.
They are quite disappointed, or outraged would probably be a better word. She originally stated, why should I apologize? I'm the victim over here. All of a sudden today, for the first time, there's tears and there's apology.
Yeah, so she now will get that time behind bars. Not clear when she has to report to prison. If that's immediate, we didn't get those details. Coming up in a moment, we'll tell you about a postal worker in Brooklyn who went postal. We'll get into that story in just a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk and Justin Allen.
Thank you, Noah Maladen. We'll start out here in Dallas. Jalen Brunson had a game-high 28 points in his return from a 2-game absence. Landry Shamet drained a pair of three-pointers in the final minute and drew a crucial charging foul in the final second. And the Knicks beat the Mavericks 113-111. Karl Anthony Towns had 18 points and 14 rebounds, while Josh Hart had 16 points and 10 rebounds off the bench for the Knicks, who won for the first time on the road this season. Brunson, who had a grade 1 ankle sprain, hit a free throw with 3.8 seconds left with the 2-point lead. Dallas's P.J. Washington inbounded to Brandon Williams in midcourt, and then Williams drove to the basket and scored with 0.7 seconds left. It was called for charging into Shamet. Brunson's free throw ended a string of 5 straight Knicks misses from the line in the final 22 seconds. They shot 19 for 35. That's 54.3% on free throws overall. They were 12 for 42 from three-point range after hitting 3 of 22 during the first half. Up next for the Knicks, they'll be at Orlando come Saturday. Head to our triple header. Look ahead to on the ice tonight. 7 p.m., the Islanders will get going out in Detroit against the Red Wings. Also at 7 p.m., the Devils will drop a puck in Florida against the Panthers. And later on tonight, the Rangers and Avalanche will get going out in Colorado at 9 p.m. And it is Thursday, which means Week 12 in the NFL getting underway with your weekly installment of Thursday Night Football tonight. 8:15 p.m. kickoff, as always. 7-3 Buffalo Bills. They're 6-point favorites in Houston against the 5-5 Texans. That's your sports gnome, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:48. A New York City official refusing a plea deal.
New York City Comptroller Brad Lander is demanding a criminal trial following his ICE protest arrest rather than accepting a plea deal. Lander and several other elected officials were cuffed in Manhattan last September when they refused to abort their sit-in at 26 Federal Plaza. They were there to try and inspect an ICE detention center on the 10th floor. The others all accepted the plea deal, which involves criminal charges eventually being dropped. Lander could go to jail for 30 days if convicted. Lisa Ritchie, 77 WABC News.
Out to Flatbush, Brooklyn, where a senior citizen is nursing knife wounds. He said that a postal worker showed up at his building in Flatbush. This is a building on Abel Marl Road in Flatbush. And her name is Jessica Griffin. She's a postal worker. So he asked her for his mail. She was sorting through the mail, and they got into some little fight. She didn't want to hand him over the mail. Apparently, he said she was rude to him. So he pulled out his camera, and he started filming all this. I guess, I don't know what he was going to do with it, put it on social media. Well, she didn't like, apparently, that she was being filmed as she was sorting the mail. They got into a fight, and that's when he says the postal worker stabbed him in his stomach. Here, I'll let him describe it.
I just asked her for the mail. She was very rude. She was nasty, and she started cursing, and I said, all right, I'm going to record you.
You're ridiculous. You're like a child.
The phone out of my hand, and then I went to pick it up, and she grabbed it. When I went to grab it back, she came around with a knife and stabbed me on the left side of my stomach.
Yeah, so he has a dozen staples and stitches in his stomach as a result of the stabbing. Griffin, the postal worker, has been charged with assault for attacking another person while on the job in March 2023, which begs the question, how does she still have her job today?
It's changed my life. I'm afraid. I am afraid. In most places, if you have violence like that, you're fired. You're terminated. You're not working there again.
Yeah, you would think so. United States Postal Inspection Service releasing a statement to us saying that they're looking into this and they're doing everything they can to protect the integrity of the post office. 550 out to Long Island. More people not behaving well. A former Nassau County nursing home aide has been convicted of sexually abusing two disabled residents he was hired to care for. 43-year-old Philip Harris found guilty yesterday, 9 charges, including multiple felony counts of endangering the welfare of a disabled person. He began working at the Glen Gariff Rehabilitation Center in Glen Cove in 2021 and apparently assaulted the residents just 3 months into his job. One victim reported the abuse to his wife and daughter. That prompted this internal investigation that uncovered a second assault. Of course, it's kind of stuff people worry about when they're trying to take care of their older, aging parents from afar. And that's why aging people who represent these people who try to protect senior citizens are saying, hey, you got to do a lot of research before you leave your parent with someone.
Our elderly are a very vulnerable population. You're the parent for your loved one, for your mom or for your dad, and you want to take care of them and make sure they're safe the same way they took care of you and made sure that you were safe.
Yeah, you're right about that. Attorney General Letitia James calling Harris's actions despicable. He faces up to 4 years in prison for each felony charge related to each victim. 552, while we're talking about senior citizens, some troubling news out of the NYPD. Assaults against the elderly on the rise across New York City. That according to the NYPD, which says muggings, random punches are up more than 6% so far this year compared to last year. In an incident in Midtown Manhattan on Tuesday, a 68-year-old woman was shoved to the ground by a complete stranger. This was near West 38th Street and 6th Avenue. She's expected to be okay, but police say this spike in assaults on a vulnerable group is very concerning to them. 552, let's go up to the Hudson Valley. An Orangetown couple pleading guilty in Orangetown court to violations related to giant adult parties they illegally held at their home in this quiet neighborhood. They're going to have to pay thousands of dollars in fine in this civil settlement. This couple apparently would advertise these parties, adult-themed parties, at their Hobbs Drive home. Now, this is a house and a swimming pool in the middle of a suburban neighborhood. So the parties that included, they were called a very lit pool party and a drip and dip party, where they would remind the guests who were coming to their home to bring their own condoms. Now, this is just the kind of people you want in your neighborhood. Here's a neighbor who saw these parties happen.
50, 60 cars parked all around. Empty liquor bottles, condoms, and other stuff. It was, a real mess after they had a party.
Yeah, you can't throw one of these parties in your backyard, especially when people are paying to come. Orangetown's short-term rental code prohibits the use of pools and other spaces for commercial parties in residential areas, especially ones where you're telling people to bring their own condoms.
These were adult parties. These were late-night parties. This was, and that's why I say I want to thank the police, because we had to actually prove that there was, payment of funds and things going on.
Now, by the way, neighbors say these parties had been going on for years until they were able to stop them. 554, there is some good economic news now for New York City.
The New York Federal Reserve says manufacturing in the New York area has increased significantly. New orders are up, delivery times increased, and average work weeks rose. Manufacturing does not get as much attention as other industries, but it's a large employer and a significant economic indicator. Some New York manufacturing firms plan to invest in new equipment, and many manufacturing firms are hiring if they can only find people with the skills they need. Joe Connolly, 77, WABC News.
There is another feud brewing between New York State and President Trump and the federal government, this time over swearing in new Americans in New York State.
In an email last week to county clerks north of New York City, the Trump Citizen and Immigration Services Agency surprisingly blocked all naturalization ceremonies at New York County courthouses. That means new Americans have to go into the city or postpone their ceremonies, potentially impacting their immigration status. In a statement, the agency claimed county courts, quote, do not meet statutory requirements for naturalization ceremonies, but did not explain. State and local lawmakers from both parties calling on the administration to reverse that decision. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
You need to make some extra cash this Christmas season. Who doesn't? The Department of Sanitation trying to root out illegal dumpers. So the department reminding New Yorkers you can make some extra cash by reporting people who illegally dump on city sidewalks, highways, or just about anywhere.
I actually have good neighbors, so in this situation, I wouldn't
rat on nobody for no money. No, that's snitching.
Well, it depends on what.
Would they rat on their neighbors for cash? I'm sure everybody would. Yeah.
I mean, I have a really bad neighbor, to be honest, but I still wouldn't do that.
Okay, so how do you do this? The Department of Sanitation says, we want to tape one of these people doing stuff like dumping stuff on the street, upload it, send it to them, and then if they are fined, you can get 50% of the fine that the city collects from the dumper that is caught. And we'll end with this story. Great job done by some basketball coaches on Long Island using their CPR training to save the life of a boy who collapsed during tryouts this week. And minutes into practice at Locust Valley High on Monday, the coaches realized that one of the kids who had fallen to the ground was going under some sort of cardiac arrest. So they went into action.
We quickly realized that something was definitely not right, and my coaches sped into action.
We started CPR, and then we switched off on CPR. I went to try to go find the AED, and then we attached the AED to the student.
And the defibrillator was already attached to the student by the time paramedics arrived.
To walk into a pediatric cardiac arrest and have the patient talking to us within 2 minutes of being on scene, in my career, it's never happened before.
Yeah, that's the EMT who showed up. He said it was amazing. Those coaches, no doubt, he says, saved this kid's life.
They kept his blood circulating, which meant his brain kept being oxygenated. His organs were oxygenated.
Yeah, great job done by the coaches at Locust Valley High on Monday out on Long Island.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?